Okay, well, good evening. This is the Lower Makefield Township Sewer Authority meeting on October 29th, 2020. It is open to the public. If anyone is out there viewing this and has any questions, please let us know. We'll be happy to answer any questions. So at this time, I am going to call the meeting to order at 7:31, and we'll have a roll call. If we can start with Barbara Kirk first, since you're at the top.
Thank you. Barbara Kirk, one of the solicitors for the township.
Fred Ebert, Authority Engineer.
Greg Hucklebridge, Public Works Director.
Bill Lingle, Sewer Authority member.
Scott Barante, Vice Chair.
Scott Phillips, you want to introduce yourself?
Scott Phillips, Authority member.
Phil Tyler, Chairman of the Lower Makefield Township Sewer Authority. Okay.
Hey, Phil, it's Dan Grenier too.
Oh,
I'm here. How are you, sir?
Just a name, no photo, huh, Dan?
Nobody wants to see this mug.
Yeah.
So, okay. Approval of the minutes from July 30th would be the next thing on our agenda. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Hey, Phil, can I make a comment or ask a question about the minutes?
About the minutes that we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Page 2, paragraph 2, says results of the sewer sale. I'm just wondering if results of the sewer sale is exactly what was meant, or more something along the line of receipt of bids.
Anyone want to answer that? I wasn't quite sure what his question was. Something about the sewer bids, and you broke up.
I'm sorry. Paragraph 2 of page 2 refers to results of the sewer sale. I don't know if these minutes are taken verbatim or if they're paraphrased for clarity.
Mm-hmm.
But if they are paraphrased for clarity, perhaps results of the sewer sale should say something like receipt of bids. Just didn't know, just for clarity purposes.
We did not get the bids, and we did not review the bids. So that's why they're not in our minutes.
Okay.
Unless you're talking about the bids for the Stacked House pumping station, which we were told by the engineer in our July 30th meeting. That would be the only bids I would know that we received. Am I correct, Fred?
If I may, real quick,
Sure.
the paragraph, I think that the sentence that's in question from Scott was the second paragraph. Mr. Ebert stated they cannot discuss the sewer sale because there is a court injunction. He stated the report was timed to come out with the results of the sewer sale so that both the sewer authority and the board of supervisors could look at all the options. So
Exactly.
results versus the bids.
Okay. So we were talking about the possible sewer
Sewer sale.
the system being sold, and we were not allowed to talk about it because of the court injunction. Yes.
Scott, if you have a recommended change, you can go ahead and make that change, and Greg can type it up, and then Joe, if Joe accepts it as the secretary, he could just initial on that line, and we can go from there.
Okay. I was going to suggest something like receipt of bids on the sewer system as opposed to results of the sewer sale.
So simply changing results to bids.
Oh, yeah. I understand.
I'm comfortable with that change. Everyone else feel the same?
Yeah, I'm happy to sign off on that change as well. No problem.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Since we got that cleared up, anyone want to approve the minutes of July 30th, 2020 with the change?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with Scott's amendment there.
Okay. All in favor, and a second?
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, Fred, we'll give you 15 minutes.
I only need 15. I only need 8. First thing is an update on the 4 contracts that were already awarded as part of the 2020 capital project. First item is the Brookstone Pump Station. We have started to receive shop drawings in and across. All contract documents have been distributed. Conform contracts have been given to all contractors. This involves both a mechanical and an electrical contractor. They're preparing shop drawings as well as construction schedules. We are trying to schedule a pre-construction meeting for next week. The electrical contractor has already been on site and kind of mobilized some things, but he's waiting for a coordination meeting now with them. So that will be starting construction. And like I said, the pre-construction meeting is just really being held up until they get their construction schedules. And really what they need to do that is just get delivery dates from their suppliers.
Is there any problem with getting equipment or materials because of this pandemic?
So far, no, there's delays, but they're all available. And we did verify that. It's just delays in no one has anything in stock. So everything's going to be manufactured and delivered. But this is a fairly straightforward one that people have known about. But it just little things like shop drawings do take longer just because many companies are still working remotely rather than having numerous people sitting there. Second item is a sewer main lining contract. We have completed the shop drawing review number 1 by letter dated October 28th. The shop drawings basically contained everything besides the bypass pumping plan. So we're waiting for the bypass pumping plan submittal, and that the contractor is going to confirm this during his first site walkthrough. The pre-construction meeting is being coordinated for early next week. And we are just waiting to coordinate times for a Zoom meeting when everyone's available. Fourth contract that was awarded is the manhole lining contract. That pre-construction meeting was held today via Zoom, 29th. All shop drawings have been approved. The certificates of insurance are being submitted. The construction is expected to last about 7 working days. They'll do 2 manholes per day. The tentative construction schedule is to start the week before Thanksgiving on November 16th. And we'll be getting confirmation of that start time early next week. So that completes that item. The second major item is a recommendation on the rebid of the Stackhouse Pump Station. The original budget was $592,000. The total of the first bids that we received was $729,790, which was an overage of the engineer's the budget amount of approximately $137,000. Our recommendation to this board and the Board of Supervisors was to reject those bids, incorporate value engineering comments into them, and then proceed with a rebid. We met with the Board of Supervisors on that. We received not all of our recommendations were accepted by the Board of Supervisors. I should say recommendations. That's not a fair statement. All of the options that we threw out there. And I agreed with the Board of Supervisors' recommendation that certain things as aesthetic, we had made commitments to people and we could not reduce that or put exposure there. The reductions that were accepted by the supervisors was removal of the muffin monster, open the pump bid, reduce the height of the valve vault, removal of the hoist, and a alternate contract that would allow one contractor to bid all 4 contracts or all 3 contracts due to the mobilization. And that was, we felt had the greatest opportunity. So we received the second bids on Tuesday. So there were really 2 options or 2 alternatives. The first one, which was the 3 individual contracts. The mechanical contract, low bid was $417,773. the engineer's estimate was $418,000. So they were right on that. The electrical bid was $137,700. And the engineer's estimate was $150,000. The conveyance contract came in at $208,588, and the engineer's estimate was $130,025. The reason for that is there's only one bidder, and it's just really to mobilize and access it without having the pump station contract. It's very problematic. The total of that bid would be $764,061. The total of the engineer's estimate would have been $698,025. The fourth contract, or D, that we received was a combined bid. The combined bid came in at $629,750. Our engineer's estimate with a 10% contingency was $671,225. When I met with the Board of Supervisors, I informed them that we would most likely need to increase the original budget by $50,000 to $75,000 from the $692,000, which would take us somewhere between $650,000, $640,000 to just shy of $671,000, or just shy of $670,000. I'm pleased to announce that the overage is only $36,000, so it was under our estimate of having to increase the budget by a minimum of $50,000. The other thing to be aware of is we got extremely great bids on the 4 previous contracts that I had discussed earlier tonight, where we were actually under by over $145,000. So my recommendation is to award the combined bid in the amount of $629,750 to Almeida and Hudak. Almeida and Hudak is a known contractor to us. They did the Haycock force main replacement. They did the job with no change orders and no customer complaints or residential complaints from the residents on that job. I will answer any questions that the board may have on the bids and my recommendation.
Anyone got any questions?
Fred, I think you just answered my one question, but just to clarify, in your letter, you indicate the recommendation letter that Almeida and Hudak have done a similar project for the township and finished on time. But you just said no change orders either, so they were on budget as well.
Yes, on budget, no change orders, and there were numerous additional items that they did.
Okay, thank you.
Without a charge.
Fred, this is Scott Phillips.
Yes, Scott.
The minutes of the last meeting at the end of July mentioned an alternative bid to re-include a muffin monster. Is that something that could be done?
The design and the direction of the Board of Supervisors was to have it set up so that we could install it at a future time. And that's one of the reasons that I didn't get quite as much money back on the muffin monster, because I could not change the hatch or the slide rail system. Instead, we're basically installing the slide rail system, but just installing a trash rack. So it could be installed in the future at any time. We did not change the size of the control building or the electrical size of the generator. I left everything in that you could literally install the hydraulic unit and install the muffin monster in the future.
Okay.
When would they start work on this after we award the bid?
I don't know. I would say that, quite honestly, at this point, it would most likely be December, January.
Because I know Greg's on borrowed time with that pump station.
Yes, he is.
Got my message.
Fred, is there any provisions in that where if they don't start before a certain time that there's increases in cost if it drags out, or basically if we agree now they can start it whenever?
Well, they can start it whenever. What there is there's liquidated damages. There's 2 dates. There's a date for substantial completion, and there is a date for final payment. And they are based upon the date of the notice to proceed. So it's X days from that notice to proceed. I would obviously extend that for final restoration of the grass and items as well. But no, they will basically have to be done by March. Our hope is to be done everything besides restoration in January or February.
If they have, there's a liquidated damages clause. Is there also a benefits clause for them if they finish earlier?
No.
Okay.
There's no benefits clause, only liquidated damage clause. And I unfortunately can't, there's no mandatory start date or mobilization date. It is, they just have to finish by that. So if I see them dragging their feet, I start with emails notifying them that, hey, listen, your substantial completion date, if I'm going to make up a date, is March 1. I'm concerned about where you're at on this. The next week, I follow up with a letter in writing. And then the third week after that, I have Barbara write a letter. And I quite honestly, I run into that. I mean, the guys wait right now, especially this contractor, how he's going to make his money is mobilizing one time and blowing everything out. So he's going to wait until he has absolutely every piece of equipment, material, pipe in his yard. Once he has it in his yard, he'll then mobilize, bring it all out and build it, because he doesn't want to have to pull off because a pump was late, a controller was late, or an electrical. And that's why he's basically almost $100,000 cheaper is the cost of that coordination. And $100,000 is really, that's from the first bid, is he's $100,000 cheaper. He's actually about $130,000, $135,000 cheaper. But that's really not a true bid, because that conveyance contract, that's a BS number, 208. That's somebody saying, hey, listen, nobody else bids on it. I'll do it for 208,000. Sure. And nobody wants it. I mean, it's a horrible site. You're working in somebody's backyard next to architectural walls, and you've got to drop major trees down. It just, unless it's very, very profitable, it's not worth it. That's why we bid it with the mechanical and electrical, because now there's enough money in the job to make it worthwhile.
He's putting up a performance bond.
Yes, I put a bid bond up, then I'll put a performance and then ultimately a maintenance bond after that. And one of the advantages is that on the tree clearing that we have to do in the backyard, you have to do a lot of tree clearing for the pump station. So there's a large economy of scale that, that tree guy is not charging that much more for the additional trees. It's getting out there and bringing in this heavy machinery, because these are large 30-inch diameter trees. They're popular. They're kind of, I don't say junk trees, but they're not high quality trees, but they're very big with no value.
So I have a quick question though, and this is going more towards coordination. Greg and I have been working with the last property owner with
Mr. Harris?
Yeah. And he's been waiting for somebody to come out and mark the trees that are going to be disturbed or removed. Because he wants to get somebody to come out and just give him an idea if he needs to have anything else taken care of. Will this contractor or the tree guy coordinate that?
It will be this contractor, Greg, myself, and the contractor will walk it with Mr. Harris.
Perfect.
There's no sense us walking it and identifying and then have the contractor come back and change. Whether or not he'll have the subcontractor there or not, I don't know. I can't force a subcontractor to come, but I can. The contractor is well aware of this.
The reason I'm asking is because I've been in touch with Mr. Harris trying to fine tune these details. So if I say to him, we're getting ready to bid out the job, and then somebody from either you or Greg's office will be in touch with him to come out with the contractor to walk the site, then that should help.
Yeah, I would represent to him like the second week in November.
Okay.
I obviously need to get approval of this board first and then make my recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. They would then need to approve it. I need to get contracts in place with them. Then it would be appropriate for me to walk it with the contractor and Mr. Harris.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually just talked about this today, Barbara, Fred and I. So it's definitely high up on our list to coordinate those trees.
And he stays in touch with me. I just want to make sure I can reach out to him and say, hey, look, this is where we're at, and this is what we're planning to do. So.
All right. Do I have a motion to accept the bid?
Well, what I would suggest that the motion would be to recommend approval of the bids, and then you have to decide whether you want it to be separate or if you want to follow Fred's suggestion and accept the one bid for the entire overall construction to Almeida and Hudak.
One that needs to recommend it.
I'll make a recommendation to move to approve the award of bid for contract SWR 20-4D for the upgrade overall construction, rather than the 3 individual contracts to Almeida and Hudak contractors, per Fred Ebert's recommendation.
Okay.
And second?
Second, all in favor? Okay, Fred, take it to the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, I believe I'm on the agenda for next Wednesday. And I
And-
appreciate the board, moving this meeting so that we could get the bids in and make this recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
And I will prepare the formal memo to the supervisors since we're not having anybody technically record tonight's minutes. So I'll do a formal memo to the supervisors outlining what the authority is recommending as the bid award.
And Fred, just so you know, we do have the draft agenda in hand, the supervisors do, and yes, you are on the agenda, and as usual, trying to keep you early so you can get out of there
I appreciate
sooner
that.
than later.
You think a PowerPoint presentation on this, or think I can just do a verbal? Dan?
If you have, I wouldn't go crazy with it, but a couple of slides summarizing would be helpful, not only to us, but to the public watching at home on
Okay.
Zoom.
I'll create this tomorrow morning.
Summary table is usually pretty helpful.
Yeah,
that you can put up on the
exactly.
screen. Nothing more than that. I think that'll do the trick.
Yep.
But
That
thank you for
meeting is
asking.
November 4th. It's the Wednesday coming up, just to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
And Janelle is on vacation, so we wouldn't have the formal meeting minutes. Well, obviously, they wouldn't be
Oh,
approved yet, so that's why we're going to have that memo to
yeah.
clarify everything. Okay?
And
Yeah.
I can sign in blood if needed because I'll be able to.
No, it's all right. You don't have to do that. I have it all set up already, Dan. So
Thank you.
I just have to plug in the name and just tweak it to read for all 3. It's going to be one bid package for all 3 parts of the project.
Okay. Other business, any other business? Any old business? New business?
The only thing I want to make sure, as new business, there is no rate increase proposed in the budget this year. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Why?
So, Greg, I can speak to it. So, Phil, last year when we went through the budget process, we set up, not theoretically, but we essentially set up a 7-year plan that would allow for rates to hopefully be flat over that period. Maybe later in there, I don't know, Greg or Fred, maybe a 5% if needed here and there. But next year in the budget, I believe there's a bump in total project value by some number. I unfortunately was unable to attend the special budget meeting yesterday, but I did flip through it. I think total project value right now, Fred, is something like 2.2 million and change, which is a little bit of a bump up from this year. So on top between, these projects this year, I think got a late start for several reasons. So we're not going to, we've got money in the bank, as it were, from this year's rate increase for projects that will not be completed, but will carry over into next year. And then the 37% increase from last year is supposed to be covering the 2.2 for next year. So we may actually have more in the bank, but from a very high level, we may have an extra 5% or so if I haven't done the math, but in the bank because of projects not completed this year. So I think that gives us a buffer for next year.
I was waiting for the 35% increase again this year.
No, and
Sometimes enough fun.
no, nobody wants those. And I think long-term outlook, the idea, without getting into details because I don't know them, general idea is that close on the system would be sometime August or so, plus or minus a month next year. So we would see what projects we have to do between, I'll say, January and closing, and anything that results from that deal. The closing, if there's anything that we have to do after close to finish it up. So that's all stuff in the works right now that as we go through the PUC process will be worked out from a rate perspective and a project's perspective. Fred, did I summarize that okay? He's on mute, but I'll say yes, I did an amazing job.
Yeah, the answer is yes, and you're accurate on all your timelines and everything, and that'll be something that we'll discuss with the authority, how and when we proceed with 2021 capital projects early in the year.
Yeah. Will you be presenting, one of the things, I not to speak for the authority here, but I think would be interesting for them if they haven't seen it already, is even though there won't be an increase in the rates, to kind of give a summary at one of these end of the year meetings as to what the planned projects are for next year, just to tee them up.
I absolutely can.
I think that would be very helpful.
Because I updated the 7-year budget. I updated that because you never know if the sale were to fall through. So we're proceeding as if we're still owning it. And I did actually update that for next year as well. For all 7 years, but specifically next year I can highlight and I can present the authority with a memorandum on that.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because then they'll get to see it. They'll I don't know if they'll get to, unfortunately, I'm not sure if they'll get to see it before we have to sign off on the budget, because our budget season is, I think, by second meeting in December, we have to be done with it. So they'll have one or two.
We've been shown a budget in years. So
we're trying, Phil. We're trying.
Okay. All right. Any other business?
No,
Solicitor's report. We can't forget the solicitor.
not much of anything other than I'm continuing to work with Fred and Greg in getting these projects through and securing the final easements necessary for Brookstone Pump Station, as well as finalizing what needs to be done for Stackhouse. But other than that, we're pretty much on target with what was previously discussed as plans proposed for this year's projects.
Okay.
Barbara, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
In a high level, is the when we were talking about the meeting minutes, we mentioned the injunction is the word that was used. Is that done? Is that complete yet?
I believe, I don't think it's technically finished. The case is still open in Doylestown, but as I understand it, the injunction was lifted and the supervisors were allowed to proceed with the discussions. I think we're at the process where we're trying to get a finalization on the action so that it's clean, the record is clear, and the docket, it's removed from the docket. But I'm not part of that actual litigation. But that's what I understand it is the status.
Okay, good. I read I'm going to say the meeting minutes, but I know that's not the right term. I'm drawing a blank of the testimony, and it seemed like the
transcript.
Thank you. Jeez. Too much science and not enough English. I read the transcript, and the transcript that I read, it seemed like the judge had a few. He said he wasn't making a ruling on this, that, and the other thing, but he was allowing things to move forward. And I just hadn't seen any finalization or final disposition.
I think we're working on that right now to see about getting it finalized. I'm just not exactly sure what stage it's at.
Good enough. Thank you.
Okay. No more further. But anyone want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I wish I could.
I know. I mean, we got nothing to talk about. Oh, okay. One thing before we get the motion. if we have nothing for going on for November, December, basically we really don't need a meeting. Am I correct, Greg?
Yeah, I think that's fairly accurate. Yeah.
Do you want Fred Ebert to give you a presentation on next year's projects before January? That would be the only thing, I think, so you could see that.
Really won't matter, right, Fred?
I mean, it's pretty much exactly what we had last year. There were some minor changes. I mean, we definitely could do that, but I don't know that. And I could also actually distribute that to the board, as well as just give them an update on the construction on the projects. I don't know that we need to meet. I think we could just do that as a distribution of information, because there's no action that would be required. And if you saw the budget and had any questions, we could definitely have the meeting. But I think we could distribute it. That document exists and can be forwarded.
Look at is our meeting dates.
And I was going to say, what Greg did is, because we pushed the October date back due to the issue of the Stackhouse bids, and then with November, Thanksgiving, I think
Thanksgiving is the fourth Thursday.
Right. I think he suggested that the December meeting actually happen on December 10th.
Okay, so we'll tentatively,
On the
Fred, if you want a December 10th, if everyone's going to be available, we can do a December meeting on the upcoming 2021 projects.
Yep. And like I said, I'll distribute it to all the board members. And if you realize there's no reason, there's no questions, there's no reason to have a meeting. But if you want to have the meeting, I'd be more than happy to do that. But I think we could distribute that information there, and then allow the board to be polled to see whether or not they desire to have a meeting.
Right, and Greg, you'll do that? Yeah, because it's up to you, gentlemen and lady, if you want a meeting on the 10th of December. And if you think the projects for 2021, you want to have a meeting and discuss them and everything with Fred, I'm for you. So I'll let you, the members decide. Okay. Outside of that, just want to make a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion for adjournment.
Thank you, sir. Second.
Second.
Come on, Scott.
Boy, nobody wants to leave. They all want to sit here and hang around.
Have drinks or something.
Scott Phillips, make a motion for second motion.
Scott Ferranti.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was muted. I did that 3 times. The 4th time, make a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight, please, or second the motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right. Thank you all for your time, and enjoy the election, Veterans Day, and Thanksgiving.
Phil, you gonna vote on it?
Everybody adjourn, say aye. Aye. Dan, we're trying to do this, like we got done the most important part. How long have we worked on this Stackhouse project?
Forever and a day.
So happy when this is done.
Yeah, Barbara went to people, and all of a sudden that property was worth $150,000. So, it's done. It's going to happen. And that's it. Thank you for all your hard work, Fred and Barbara.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Everybody stay safe.
Yep. Have a good holiday, everybody.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye-bye.